I would love to see more balance in the industry because I think, as I said before, it breeds diversity.
It's not male versus female. We're just human beings who are both going through that same process.
I tend to find women are more researched, they're more prepared.
Data shows that women are the minority in a lot of workplaces and decision-making environments, with women making up 22.3% of CEOs, 35.1% of key management and 18% of board chair positions here in Australia. But despite these figures, the power of women cannot be underestimated, and especially when it comes to the property market and the decisions being made in the buying and the selling phases. Ahead of International Women's Day, I'm here with buyer's advocate Cate Bakos and Chief Executive Officer of Coronis Real Estate, Karuna Mazzocchi, who was recently named the most influential woman in property at the REA Excellence Awards in late 2024. And we are going to be discussing how and where women are on the rise when it comes to property. Ladies, thank you so much for coming on the show. So, Cate, you've been a buyer's advocate for 22 years. Now, how has the industry changed over that time? Are you seeing more women come into it?
For sure, Alice, I am. I started in the industry 22 years ago, and my early days in real estate were actually as a selling agent. But, there's a lot of commonality between our roles, and there have been so many changes. So we've got more women in leadership for starters, and we've had a real shift from women dominating admin and property management, now actively going into sales and leadership roles as well. I'd say that we've got more events, more people are willing to talk about the juggle.
How does that make you feel?
I get excited. Obviously, empowered is the wrong word because I feel like I've done the hard yards and, had to deal with a lot of hurdles and smash through a glass ceiling to be where I'm at now. But I feel like we can celebrate that because other people don't have to go through the hurdles that someone might have decades ago. We've still got a long way to go. So I'm not suggesting that where we're at is okay, but it's better.
Now, Karuna, you've been an agent for more than 20 years, and you recently did an interview with a journalist at REA Group where you said that your mantra during your career has been feel the fear and do it anyway. Now, I loved that, but can you tell me what it was like when you first joined the industry? How many female examples did you have to look up to?
Yeah, I started straight into sales when I got into real estate when I was 22 years old. And the place that I joined, I was the only female agent in a team with about another 10 men. It felt pretty hardcore at that time because I think it was so heavily dominated in the industry, and I sort of found a actual male mentor there that was an older gentleman that I felt took me under his wing and really helped me grow myself and grow who I was. And I was already quite a confident young woman, so I do think that helps being able to call stuff out and not actually buy into things that you were told, like you're going to fail, you're never going to be good at this, or when you have a child, how are you actually going to make this happen? And I was like, I'm 22 years old, I'm like, what are you talking about? I've got plenty of time to have a successful career and follow my dreams of still being a mum and having a family and a partner and all those things. And I didn't actually have a lot of female leadership around me at the time. I had a state director from my old role that actually encouraged me to get into real estate, and I still have a very close friendship with her because she, when I started second guessing myself on whether I was going to be successful in the real estate industry, she said, go and do it, Karuna, you're going to be amazing, it'll change your life, and got me out of the retail space into real estate. So I'm forever grateful for her.
Are you seeing more women come into those mentor roles?
On our business point of view, I feel that we're very, very balanced, and I feel very blessed to be working in an environment like that. Like, for example, half of our executive team are women. And half are men. I find that there's a lot more women actually encouraging each other to succeed and cheering each other on, and I think sometimes that hasn't always been the case, and I think that that's really nice to see that power of encouragement from the industry in total. Like, I know for me, for example, when I won that award at REA, I saw there was heaps of other women leaders around the country that sent me heaps of praise and excitement and wonderful messages, which I think is awesome because I love seeing that support for other women. And I think that there's definitely a lot of other women getting into sales straight away and actually believing in themselves that they can do that. And obviously the property management space is, still heavily, women focused at this point in time, but we are seeing men join, property management too, which I love to see, because I think there should be diversity in all parts of the real estate industry, not in one.
From a professional point of view, you've both seen some pretty big shifts over the last 2 decades. Have these shifts also translated into the buying and selling process of property in terms of the consumer? Kate, what's your experience been in this? Are you dealing with more women now as opposed to a few decades ago? Because women couldn't even borrow money from a bank without a male until 1984.
Yeah, I just feel sad and sick about that. Yes, in short, absolutely. I would say 1,000%. Women are more informed and they're more confident that they can do it. They're seeing a lot of good examples around them. And they're not always necessarily presenting with confidence at the start, but they're confident enough to make that first initial call or meeting, and it's joyous to see that.
I think that word informed is just an awesome one to use, because I know somebody who she fired her mortgage broker because she was the one doing the correspondence.
Yes.
And she would sign her name at the end of the email, and her broker came back addressing her husband, even though her husband was the backseat driver in this whole process. So that was just too old school for her, which it would be for me too. So she was like, okay, move on next.
I'd feel the same. I remember organising to test drive a car, and I got there and the gentleman that greeted me said, "Aren't you lucky?" Because obviously my husband was buying me a car.
Yeah.
I felt really offended. So I went to a different car yard.
So you should.
At least you took the action.
Karuna, what about you? When you're showing a property, what was it like when you first started compared to what it is like now?
We were trained quite heavily within our business at the time that the woman was the decision maker, and that we would do the marketing towards the women, and that we would make sure that they were there, and we would be very heavily focused on having conversations with them. But I'm not saying that was the whole industry, but that was my experience. It was making sure that we were being very inclusive of both parties and communicating with both parties. One of our things was always talking about that both people are equal decision makers and don't just communicate to one, because I think was very important to get the best outcome for everybody. I spoke to our conveyancing director, who is a female leader in this space, and she was saying that when she was growing up through the ranks of learning at the conveyancing business, that she was told never to speak to women and to actually speak to the men only and address the men in the emails and so on and so forth. So I think depending on the space that you work in, the leaders that you work with, the thought process on their inclusivity and diversity, I think things, bad habits or bad beliefs can get pushed down on. And I think that's where we have to be really strong in making sure that we're actually educating our team members and educating the industry and educating the community about how to look after people in a human way, where we're actually giving care to all parties.
I think that's awesome, like in a human way. I love that, because it's not male versus female. We're just human beings who are both going through that same process. You did all your marketing towards women. That was your experience, and making them feel valued, which I think is awesome. What about the vendor side of things? Like when you put up a property for sale, who were you communicating with kind of back then, and how has that shifted from now?
And it was, I think, one of our things of making sure that when we were setting listing presentations and setting appointments were to confirm that all, like, you didn't obviously say it like this, but to confirm that all decision makers were going to be present. And decision makers doesn't necessarily mean husband, wife, partner, etc. It could be, if it's a young person, it could be their mum and dad that they need to be there, or it could be anyone that they feel actually helps them in a decision making process, so that you could be talking to the relevant people and not passing on third party information. So it was, I think, where some has got sticky in situations, when I've seen male agents in our business, when a woman said, "Yep, I'm making the decision, I'm going to be there," and they can see that there's a partner on the title, how they've had to accept that that's actually they're making the decision, and you need to go and communicate with them effectively, and you're going to have to believe that they're actually the ones making the informed decision. So I think it's really, yet again, looking at the scenario that you're in, making sure you're listening effectively, and then following what you need to deliver the best outcome and service for those clients.
So, Kate, How many women are coming to you for assistance solo? Because this is something that fascinates me. Data shows that women actually have a slight edge on men when it comes to owning property in this country. There's 68.2% of women who own property compared to 67.4% of men. So, compared to, say, 5 to 10 years ago, what's your experience with buying just for women
Just for women.
only?
I have had an increase in single women approaching me for assistance as a percentage of the clients that I work with, over the last 16 years that I've been doing this. And if I benchmark men that are doing it solo versus women that are doing it solo, I've always had a little bit more of a number for the females that I'm working with. I think overall, though, to answer the question, I've got a greater representation of women.
And what's your experience like working with women? Generalizing,
Yes.
we're pretty well researched. We tend to look at everything from all angles. Like, I know from a personal point of view, it's not that often that I go into something completely blind.
It's a good question. And I'm using the word generalizing here. And I don't love generalizing, but I tend to find women are more researched, they're more prepared, and they've got an idea of how much they know, but they certainly are open to the fact that there's a lot that they don't know. So there's a vulnerability there. And that's something that I work really hard to nurture, but also to recognize and to make it okay. I think it's great when someone says, these are the things I don't know, or these are the things I'm scared of, because I can help them more. And women tend to underestimate how much legwork they've done. They can be self-deprecating, which I sometimes feel a bit sad about because, again, generalizing, I can talk to men and they've got a great degree of bravado and they'll tell me how much they know. And sometimes they're not so great at listening. So I think women have to pat themselves on the back and understand that if they've done the legwork and they've made their way to someone who is there to help them, they've already nailed the really important first part of the journey.
Karuna, what about you? Is your agency seeing an increase in women buying solo as well?
Definitely. I just will add to what Kate said. I think that a lot of times women second guess themselves, and it can be coming from fear of making the wrong decision. And I think that just doesn't go, doesn't be in the space of buying a home. I think that translates to their career. And I've noticed that whenever we're training young women or women in general, a lot of times, and I was like this myself, where I remember I'd get super frustrated because I wanted to ask, am I doing this right? Is this okay? If I say this, is this what I should be saying? My male leaders at the time will be like, just go and do it, have a crack, make it happen. And I'll be like, but no, I don't want to stuff it up. Like, I want to know that what I'm saying is correct. And I think that relates exactly to buying a property. You want to know that you've done everything you possibly can to make sure that you're informed so that you make a good decision and feel proud of the decision you make, not that you're going to fail. So I think that women in general, generalizing again, do that. And I think that's really something that we have to be mindful of, especially coaching young women in the industry.
What do you think is attributing to the increase in women who are buying property, I guess, on their own? A few things that I can think of, I guess, are, women now have a stronger borrowing capacity. And also a lot of women are choosing to not be in partnerships. Karuna, do you have any other thoughts on this?
I think it's for making sure that they have something for themselves and feeling confident, and that that they might not be at risk of it getting taken away. I think there's lots of thoughts like that going on. I think women are sometimes waiting longer to have partners or have children, and they get to a point where they want to feel proud and they own and they've had success on their own. And I think that that's good. I think that people should, women should be confident in going and buying their own property. I know I built my first property on my own when I was 22, and I still have that home. And I think it sets you up for financial freedom and makes you feel more confident in the risks that you need to take to get ahead in life. And then when you want to have a family, you've actually got these things behind you, and and you've got choice. And I think having choice is a huge thing for life, really.
I think it also can make you more confident to take a risk because you've got that security there. So there's always going to be a roof over your head, is how I see it, no matter what. Kate, what about you? What do you feel are the main reasons why women are taking such a leading role, or if you have any other thoughts on what we've said?
I mean, we've got higher education levels for women.
Mm-hmm.
And obviously that can transpire into, as Rena mentioned, you can have a higher salary at a certain age as well. But I think we've got a lot of conversation around financial security. It's a big topic, and in particular what we're seeing now with women over 50 and homelessness. It's a horrible statistic. So people are desperately wanting to avoid landing in that situation. And I've heard this phrase coined before by others, but a man is not a plan. And I think we're aware of that.
Well, where to from here, do you think? I mean, Karuna, do you think there is a way, a bit of a way to go for women in real estate?
Yeah, I think there is. I think that when you look at the leadership positions across the country, it's still hugely male dominated. And I think that there's, still in the sales division, it's still heavily male, dominated. And I think women are such great, salespeople as well as men, but women are obviously great salespeople and they should believe in themselves to step into those roles. When I talk to women in our business, it does a lot of the time come from that, fear of failure, or, are they going to be able to have it all as such? Can they juggle in this world that we live in? And I 100% believe you can. I'm a living example of it. I'm sure Kate's a living example of it, where sure, it's a shit show some days, but you can still keep striving ahead and set big goals for yourself and back yourself to make it happen. And I encourage women to choose this career because I do think it has freedom and flexibility in regards to actually having choice, as we spoke about. You can set your diary, you can set expectations, be efficient, and make it happen. And I would love to see more balance in the industry, because I think, as I said before, it breeds diversity and you get imported talent and different thought processes and different care and empathy and so on and so forth.
So what needs to happen in order to achieve this balance?
From my point of view, like I see as myself being a female leader, that I'm watching with new franchisees that are opening up with Coronis, that there is a lot of female directors coming to that space, because I think when you can see it, you believe it. And I think that if other people around the country promote people from within their business that are women and give them a chance to prove themselves, and other people can actually see that, and we promote the healthiness of that, other women will join and they'll feel confident to do that. But they actually have to see other people doing it to actually believe that that's the case.
If the sky is the limit, what are your hopes and dreams for women in the industry?
No matter what they want to do within the industry, that they choose it, commit to it, and put themselves out there and make it happen for themselves, and that we drive that as an industry to encourage great talent to join our industry and be known for something that it should be, which is being ethical and caring for people and giving back and all this, these amazing things that I think the real estate industry can do, and that we make it a better place and import the right people.
And Kate, what's your top tip for women looking to buy property?
Knowledge is power.
Yep.
So knowing what you don't know, or knowing what you want to learn about. There's no such thing as a stupid question.
Mm-hmm.
I think a lot of us get caught up on that. We don't want to make a fool of ourselves or be embarrassed. And recommendations count. So if you don't know, just ask around, whether it's finding a great agent or a mortgage broker, or where to look on the internet, which forums to join, just ask.
There is always somebody who, it's you don't know what you don't know.
Yeah.
But someone else will know. 100%. So it's about finding the right people. Look, thank you so much, ladies, for coming on. I really hope, you've enjoyed yourself, and it's been a great conversation.
Great to chat with you both.
Thanks for joining me. This has been Real Talk. For your weekly fix, please follow wherever you listen to your podcasts, and tune in next time for more real questions, news and insights on the topics that matter most from realestate.com.au, Australia's #1 address in property. All information provided is general advice and opinion based on current market conditions. These opinions should not be treated as investment advice. Always obtain advice based on your individual circumstances.
Real Talk acknowledges the traditional custodians of country throughout Australia and their connections to land, sea, air and community. We pay our respects to elders past and present.